What's up, Wasp fans? We got baseball, softball, NCAA March Madness, and we're going to catch up with a former basketball standout here on this episode of Buzz Time. All right, here we are. We are back at it after spring break. So many festivities have occurred, but we're jumping right back into baseball season. Let's start it off.
The baseball team is on one of the hottest streaks they've been on in the past few years. They just beat Eastern Mennonite this past Saturday at home to get their first two conference wins of the year. Their first conference sweep of the year, as Eli Straw had himself a game, had a home run, and then he had a walk-off RBI single to give the Wasps a victory over the Royals.
Yeah, and he was mixing it up a little bit as Josh Masick, while he was tagging up from third, he was tagged really aggressively by the catcher, and he stared down at the dugout. Eli was having none of that, boy, let me tell you. And then he let his game do the talking later in the game, like you said, with that walk-off. And we were talking about what this team needed to do to succeed, and young pitching was one of the biggest things that we mentioned. I'd like to highlight three freshman pitchers who were doing very well. Alex Laws, he was doing very well. He had 4 innings out of the bullpen. He's got an ERA under 3. Ethan Caves has 11 Ks in 11 innings. And also Chandler Kiesel. They've been going to him a little bit more recently, but he has a very deceptive delivery and left-handed slot.
Yeah, Kiesel is one of the guys that the Wasps can utilize in essentially every position. It's like a utility player. He stands at 6'6", one of the biggest players out on the field. He's been a DH a lot of the time this year, but he's also, when he's came on the mound this year, his first few appearances have been pretty nice breeze through, but against Ferrum, he really struggled the other day, but really like to see the freshman pitching. But you also mentioned Alex Laws, the Muffin Man, as the team refers to him as. He's been baking the pitches right and just toss them into the oven, dude.
Good for him.
We got Eli. We have his strength and the young pitchers, but one thing that we haven't brought up is the legs of Ben Sexton, the sophomore, who's been giving them just speed. And he's the reason why they're racking in all these runs. He's got 2 home runs last game, so.
Who do you think, it starts with pitching and talking to Coach Cusco and those guys. And so from the beginning of the season to now, who do you think has made the most progress and is being that standout player?
Honestly, it's the dark horse on the team. And everybody knows about him, but nobody really mentions him a lot of the time, and that's Gavin Felty. Gavin Felty, honestly think last season he did have the best pitching performance on the entire team, but this year, he's just been killing it again this year. His pitching performances every single game. He'll go out there day in, day out, and he's a hard worker. That guy picked Emory and Henry. He had a lot of Division II offers, but he picked Emory and Henry based on what he saw in Coach McCall and in this team and the leadership that they provides, and he provides that leadership to the team that they really need to stride moving forward.
And like Kiesel, he can do a little bit of everything. He can hit, he can pitch, he can play the outfield. He's very impressive and a big part of what the Wasps are doing this year.
I think they're making strides this year. And talking about infield, what's making the biggest impact there in regards to that big triple play that we saw through Go Wasp the other day?
Honestly, the senior leadership of Hunter Jeffries. That man, number 23, he is the GOAT out there on the diamond, just like Michael Jordan was out there on the hardwood. He's just provided that senior leadership that the Wasps have really needed, with Holden Watkins being out this year with that ACL tear.
And, all right, baseball making strides, I know for a fact. But let's go to softball now and what they're doing here. And McClellan, give us a little recap.
Softball 17-5 right now. This is not the same team that we saw last year. The team we saw last year, below 500, really struggled all season just to get anything going. But they brought in 2 pitchers this year that have just been slicing and dicing every single game. Emily Kendrick and Tiffany Cole, and then the play of Leah Ellswick, Kaylee Hodge. You just can't say anything wrong with what the Wasps are doing right now. They just had a sweep yesterday over Randolph, beat them twice, and then this weekend they're playing the number 3 team in the nation, Virginia Wesleyan. They are currently have only lost 1 game on the season, so it'll be an interesting matchup as they're 25-1.
Wow. As our team as well, we're undefeated at home, so we really bring it when the home fans are out. And to your point about Emily, she's 9-3 and has 8 complete games already on the season. She's very impressive. In this doubleheader against Macon that you just mentioned, she had a complete game victory and then a save in the second part of that doubleheader. It was very impressive.
Yeah, she was really a steal. She came from Walters State Community College, and just for the Wasps to be able to get her to play on their team, she was the pitcher of the year when she was in high school, her senior year, out of all of Virginia. So that's just an outstanding accomplishment. And the fact that Tommy Forrester brought her in is just a big accolade on his plate.
Let's talk about hitting. Who's making the biggest impact in that realm for these ladies?
Power. It's always Kaylee Hodge. You just look at what she's doing. She's either hitting a double or she's hitting a home run. Just never know which one's going to be coming next. And then Leah Ellswick. She's been a person that's hit with a lot of contact, but this past year she's been hitting with a lot of power too. I believe she's hit 2 or 3 home runs already this year. She hit one yesterday against Randolph, so Ellswick really providing that spark that the Wasps need.
I think Danielle Lovin's also bringing it as well. She has a 384 average. She has 4 home runs, also adding 13 RBIs. So every time she comes to the plate, especially with runners on base, she's very dangerous. She brings a lot as a senior. And Courtney Herron also, as a freshman, has a 300 batting average. She's having a pretty good campaign in her freshman year.
I think every time you hear the crack of the bat from those people, you know something good is about to happen. All right, and in transitioning, we're going to talk about what is buzzing nationally right now. The Final Four. We all we had our predictions. A lot of us fell short in many arenas, but we have the Final Four is in place. So let's talk about what is going to happen in our own opinion.
First off, I just want to give us all credit. We didn't know anything about what the tournament field was going to be like, who anywhere was, but every single one of us got at least one team in the Final Four correct, and you got 2.
I did.
That's
UNC
even
and
more
Gonzaga.
impressive. Yeah. But honestly, right now, the Final Four is going to be probably one of the most interesting Final Fours that we've ever seen in a while. The only experienced coach really here right now is Roy Williams. Every other coach, you've got Gonzaga's coach, Oregon's coach, and then South Carolina's coach. Frank Martin from South Carolina is probably one of my favorite coaches in this tournament. Look what he has did with the Gamecocks. I really think that the Gamecocks will win this weekend and move on to the championship game, and I think that UNC will move on to the opposite side. So it'll be the battle of the Carolinas in the national title.
That is what I want to see happen, and I take into account the past, and UNC is 4-0 on Oregon in the past times they've met, and every time they played them, they've beaten them by an average of 24 points per game. So marginally, it looks like it's in UNC's favor, but with Oregon having been streaky lately, I think that'll be an interesting matchup. But being a Carolina boy myself, I do want to see South Carolina versus North Carolina. Shout out to my South Carolina boys from back home. I think the Gamecocks are going to go down if that happens. But talking about Gonzaga and South Carolina, I think that will be a feisty matchup. What we've seen South Carolina do and the noise that they've made in this tournament.
Well, I don't think they've seen quite the amount of depth that they will see with Gonzaga. They could just throw bodies at you all day long, and I think that's also the key for Carolina. Oregon has been streaky, and that's something that people don't talk about a lot with the NCAA tournament. It's just a 6-game win streak to win the whole thing. So if you just get hot at the right time, you could be very impressive. I think the UNC-Oregon matchup will be interesting. I think the UNC bigs are a little more seasoned, a little better. That gives them the edge in that game. And I think Gonzaga's depth will get to South Carolina, and you'll see a UNC-Gonzaga in the final.
I actually want to see Oregon and UNC do it because, Oregon's really – they're on the roll right now, but UNC, they come together as a team, as you saw that lucky win last game. So I think that will be an interesting matchup, and I think that's what we're going to see.
Yeah, talk about, you have Joe Barry averaging 14 points a game and just leading that team. And then you have guys around him, Kennedy Meeks, Luke May, stepping up to make big plays for UNC.
Shout out to my boy Luke May. Hits a game winner and then goes through his 8 a.m. Business 101 class. So shout out to you, Luke May, if you watch this at all. Probably won't, but you might. So you never know. But, that's one thing that you mentioned, Joel Berry. Joel Berry, he has not been 100% all tournaments. So that will be
Ankle
one thing for UNC to watch out for. But I think my final champion, I do think, and I thought it back when we made our Final Four predictions, UNC, baby.
I agree. I think UNC has every part in the bag that they need to succeed. And also bringing up Jackson and just his three-point shooting ability. He's made 101 threes this season, which is a very high feat for somebody, especially on the UNC roster. So I like I said, I'm sticking with UNC all the way for this one. So
hurts me to say it, but I agree with you guys. This team kind of vibes that Ty Lawson team, the point guard with the ankle injury, the two premier shooters in Barry and Jackson, and always the points in the paint differential that you always get with Carolina, at least recently. So I think that will give them the edge over anybody that they play, and I think UNC will cut down the nets this year.
Now a question for y'all. Did that UNC-Kentucky game remind you of anything that happened last year?
Oh man, that was a redemption game, I think, and
Right.
it was flipped. I mean, the Villanova shot on UNC, and then you see Luke May coming out of nowhere, who was a walk-on but does not play like one, and he hits that big shot, and you're just like, holy crap! That he will be remembered for that for the rest of his life,
Yeah, and Kentucky,
especially if they win this tournament.
because Kentucky had that last-second shot just with time remaining, and then. I mean, I just was thinking back. UNC got their gift back.
Absolutely. Well, it will be interesting to see how all this plays out. But now we're going to transition and talk about, lastly, a little segment, kind of an out-and-about segment, where we went and talked to Malcolm Green, a former basketball standout here at Emory-Henry College. He is pursuing, he's at barber school right now, and he's trying to pursue just a business in that realm. So we're going to jump right into that and see what's going on with Malcolm.
You want to keep your sideburns? When I got to school here at Emory, I didn't really have. There was a few people that cut hair. There wasn't anybody really that did it the way I wanted it done. I kind of called my dad and asked him, could he buy me a pair of clippers? He was totally willing to do that, so he bought me some clippers, and then I started like cutting my hair in the bathroom, cutting my own hair in the bathroom. Had numerous fails doing that. Started cutting some of my teammates' hair. The ones that were willing to let me experiment. I told them, I said, if you let me cut it, I can't promise you it's going to be good, but I'll definitely attempt. Seeing people's reaction after they get a haircut. You know, somebody comes in who hasn't gotten a haircut in a while, a couple weeks or a month or so, and they come in, get a haircut. And, you know, there was this one time I cut this guy's hair. It was one of the times I was at barber school. I cut a guy's hair, and you know, the first thing he did once I gave him the mirror was he smiled. Kind of like hit me when he smiled, because I mean, I could tell on his face that he really liked the cut. He said, man, this is probably one of the best haircuts I've ever had. I think a haircut can do so much for someone's outlook on a day, a week, you know, just being able to make somebody feel good. That's a big thing for me. The dream is to be a legit business owner. I think anybody that knows me knows I'm an outgoing, I'm a loving person. Sure?
Yes.
Okay, cool. That's just one thing that's gonna, you know, set me apart. People are gonna love to come to the barbershop to see Malcolm.
Malcolm's a great barber, straight up.
They're gonna want to be able to be around me. So that's just one thing I take pride in is being a great person, you know, and that's what I think is gonna be the biggest kicker.
Well, Malcolm is doing some awesome things in the barber world.
Certainly.
And that will do it for this episode of Buzz Time. And just note, next week we will be announcing the finalists for the Blue and Golden Globe Awards. That does it here on Buzz Time. On behalf of all these gentlemen, I'm Andrew Davis here on Buzz Time.
The weekly dab.